he has not.
The issue is, though, of course, that Seaknight has been against, we'll say, newer players in his group. I'm not going to say it was, I'm not going to say, well, I will say he got an easy group. He got an easy run. It's a group that you want to be in, shall we say, if you are a decent player. It's one you're looking for. You're not looking to be in Group F. You're not looking to go against Truckee. Certainly not looking to go against a Jersey Sniper. You're not looking to play against Andy San or Sauron. You're looking to play against the players at, Black Hawk, Gangita, these newer guys. Did well, but they're both in the round of 16 now. Both can go very far, I think.
Who made it second?
Who made second?
In Joey's group, yeah.
Who did? Joey? Was Joey
made first? Who made second?
Oh, I don't know. Oh shit, that's a good question. We check.
I'll look it up. I got it. Revolutionist. Oh, that makes sense.
Revolutionist, yeah, that's it. He plays DJP next, I think. Tough matchup for him.
Very true.
Clan stealing start, though, by the way, for the Isengard player. Seaknight again. Potentially another greedy start here. I just realised Swallow doesn't affect the Cum de Bad Hogs. First Hall of King's men up for the Angmar player as he goes for his third mill. Now look at where he's placing his third mill. On the original Fords of Isen, this is the reskin, boys, from BFME2. So this is actually just stones in Fords of Isen, but it does protect your mill really well. So you actually can't attack it, of course. You're firm against this nice structure. So I see a lot of players now, a lot of BFME2 players on this map build like this. First two mills where Sauron did his, third one there, fourth one where Sauron's going to put his on top of the river. So you're essentially gambling that your opponent won't be able to find anything in your base because nothing behind your base, there's nothing in front of it. Just one slightly below and to the left, one above to the right, and then the rest of your mills go straight up. Which I quite like, actually. Can make it tricky to defend, though.
Yeah.
Can't redeem Truckee, boys. 3,000 cost.
It's an expensive one. He's an expensive lay.
He isn't cheap. He's not going to just do it for anything, boys. You got to buy him a drink. You got to buy him some margaritas first.
Alright, so we have Isengard stealing start versus a very normal, 2 mil Hall for his opponent, and he's creeping immediately. The Angmar player creeping immediately, trying to earn the gold that will let him keep both of these halls at 100% uptime. If you get this ward gold, there's your fourth mill for free, and it feels very good if it doesn't get blown up or molested. And we have Joey doing very Joey things. He's gonna creep. He's gonna creep with wild men, because why not earn money while you earn money? And this is interesting because most Isengard players in this matchup will go Uruks, and most Rise of the Witch King players in this matchup as Angmar will kind of sit on their hands and either do what Sauron has done or do Hall Wolf Den. Start making lots of Wolf Riders and lots of Dire Wolves, because they do a really good job at blowing up the Urukai Death Ball. That's not what Joey's doing. Joey is all... I know he's building these work packs for two reasons, because he thinks that they're insanely CP efficient, because for only 40 CP, he has a unit that cannot be trampled. So he's going to scout with them, he's going to harass with them, but you're going to see him do strange things, which is he's just going to have them sit on top of his on top of his Uruks and on top of his wild men in just defensive stance, not moving, and just to body block cavalry. And they do really well against Dire Wolves as well. So this is a really clever thing that he's kind of figured out that he likes to do, which is why we have what would be considered a pretty unorthodox Isengard strategy here. But as of yet, this is the first interaction, and neither player has even seen a structure of the other one. Though SeaknightofEa does, if he gets lucky with his half battalion in the top right.
He did. He actually got a mill at the top right. They got the first mill that was built very kind of just outside of the warg sentry up there, just out of the warg layer. So he did get one of Angmar's mills down. War chant though for Angmar now with quite a nice army. Gonna get potentially taken down here. Straight away Thrallmaster's gonna go down. That's one of his pikes gone.
Very interesting.
No real counter against the warg.
He doesn't have a pike to deal with the wargs now.
No.
One warg
with
is
their
just getting slaughtered.
Free howl.
It's crazy.
Crazy, boys. Pike's out now for Isengard. I think he's going to send him to creep right, knowing Joey. Straight down to the bottom to go and get that cave troll.
Immediately to the cave troll, because he would really like a crossbowman or another Uruk-hai, though it seems like he just has the perfect amount of troops to have defended this. This was a really important moment. This was similar to the last game that Piggy and May played too, where May had that 5-unit push, and he was really hoping to get onto some sweet production buildings or whatever, and he just sort of barely got body blocked. The big thing about this game, and why you have to be really careful when you do these hard commits. You know, there's a reason players just sort of run around each other's base, tricking each other off, like hitting stray resource buildings, and why, you know, you can play a long match and you never even really try to kill their barracks. It's because of a thing called defender's advantage, boys. When you're in there trying to kill his structures, the closer you are to his production buildings, the more you're going to have to deal with reinforcements. It's very clear. It's very simple.
Their unit, while you're in the Angmar base taking out one of his mills, his units are coming out and attacking you immediately. There is no need for them to cross over, and your reinforcements take a long time to come and help you. So you will lose those fights eventually.
So it was a really big brain play, how that whole thing played out, where basically with 2 wildmen, SeaknightofEa manages to body block and hold up those 4 buffed units of Gundabad's and 1 pike there, and just kind of hold them long enough for reinforcements to come in. Where he's sort of content to instantly send that pike down. And look at where the Gundabad's are relative to that unit of Uruk pikemen right there. If there's any hesitation with that decision, he doesn't get that free 400 gold that he just got, because, you know, just the timing of the Gundabad's coming in, it's going to get blown up, or, you know, he's going to see that pikeman moving. This is a really, really fascinating board state. And again, we see, similarly to his last game against May Shadow, SeaknightofEa has played very low aggression. He has aggressed. He's managed, I think, to kill 1 or 2 mills already. Ooh, here you see...
There's the Wolf Riders. Warg's just out of position there.
A little bit out of position, yeah. But the Wolf... Will the Wildmen survive?
Just not.
Even with all that, not a terrible spot for the Isengard player to be in, considering everything.
No, not with those level 2 Wargs now coming in. Attacking the thrall immediately of these Wolf Riders. Going to win that fight. Sauron needs to get out of there, really. Which he does. Unable to be trampled as well, as you said. But now, look, Crebain comes up in the Isengard base. Crossbows on defensive with a set for the Wildmen. Needs to try and save this mill. He will save it. Very nice. Saves his furnace, sorry, should I say. Joey's done very well here. I think he's now on a little bit of the defensive. He's got a lot of units, though.
Very even game.
Yeah. Sauron.
If he had better protected those Wildmen that were in the top right, if he had anticipated the wolves, or just like spent a little bit more time in reposition to get that work pack right on top of his Wildmen after the first trample, he would be in prime position to start doing some real damage right here.
Yeah.
But instead he's going to be forced to be a little bit more defensive right here, dealing with this force coming in. Yeah.
And unfortunately, because of that loss up there, because of that change, he's now behind on CP of actual available units on the board. Just only slightly as he gets some more Wildmen and Pikes out, but for a long while there, he was about 100 behind. Especially as Angmar came with that great war chant, took down a mill, and are going to try and take down a second on top. Lurtz is out to try and deal with it, though, as he replaces. But a tricky spot, potentially. Builder, by the way, going down on the bottom. Ooh, war crime. It's going to be big for Isengard. Look at that. Sends his pikes immediately to go and try and get that mill. He's not interested in taking these team fights, which he can't win. He needs to go and take down a structure instead, or get out of there. Isn't doing him any favors by feeding his opponent power points.
And the Angmar just spam and speed here is really starting to overwhelm, and the Angmar player is almost full popped out. If he just had all of his forces with a buff right now on his fort, Isengard would have nothing at all to deal with him. Thankfully, he does have the travel time to try and come up with something in order to withstand this next attack. This is looking very, very dire.
Yeah, very tough to be in.
Yeah, a game that was looking really good for the Isengard player, and it really sort of came down to this one interaction in the top right, where he had the tools to deal with the situation that he was in when those Wolf Riders first came out, but he just sort of like didn't give that specific spot on the map enough attention. But well played by Sauron to just sort of finagle the board and to have all of these interactions constantly. Not, you know, he's harassing up until that point, not really making any headway, but manages to wait, have enough patience to not show Wolf Riders until he has 2 of them, and then you just have this massive swing off of that one interaction.
So then my question is, what does the Isengard player need to do differently? Now, is it the idea of getting a second clan stealing here to try and keep up with the spam?
See, sometimes when we try to evaluate these losses, especially with players as good as the 2 people that are in here, right?
Oh, the
Sometimes
clump, by the way, the clump.
Crazy clump, yeah. This is probably going to be the game, boys.
This is the game. This is going to be GG.
A little bit of like mental advice and like tip.
Frozen land as well. There it is.
If you guys have been in this stream and you've seen us have conversations with someone like, you know, Boyz Maximus and stuff, there is a tendency when we lose games, and about any game, but especially this one, where there's less like there's not a teamliquid.net. There's not like extensive YouTube like how to climb ladder in 2 days. Just master this strategy and you're gonna get all the way to, you know, gold MMR or anything. In this game, when we lose, we tend to kind of overcorrect. So your question is like, what should he have done differently? And honestly, I think that the strategy was sound. I think that the only problem was execution.
Yeah.
I think that it's just a matter of he had 4 Wildmen and 2 Warg packs in this spot that were fighting a Gundabad and a Gundabad and an Axe Thrower, and he hard committed the wolves, his own wargs, onto the Axe Thrower to try and clean them up. He could have played it slower, give Sauron the first trample. That was something that he created. That's a huge win from him. That first trample is not SeaknightofEa making a mistake. That's a success by the other player. That's another thing that we need to think about when we're trying to analyze these games. But after that, those Wolf Riders come in, they trample, they don't insta-kill anything, they get all of those Wildmen to red health. If he can just sort of like reposition, get all of his units where they are so that he can keep like at least half or 3/4 of those Wildmen alive, what that's going to do is that's going to create a situation where he pulls troops from the Angmar player away from being aggressive to deal with that group. And that was why they were there in the first place. He knew that he needed to kind of like, now was the time for him
to be prepared for it.
Yeah, but it just, that sort of like lapse in attention, or, you know, or he's somewhere else on the map microing something else, and he comes back and he's like, oh my god, he has fucking Wolf Riders now. I knew they were coming. You know, he knew that they were coming. That's why he's going Warg packs. I promise you. That's why he's going Warg packs.
Also, another thing very quickly to mention is that, okay, we're talking about, you know, what can these players do differently and all that kind of stuff. In any other game, well, you're talking about, okay, well, you need your wargs to be just over here a little bit, you know, just like about on your screen 2 inches in the other direction, you would have won that. Yeah, in any other game with decent netcode, that's a great bit of advice. In a game where you're playing with a 2-second off-host delay as minimum, then on top of that, actual peer-to-peer lag. Like, this game comes out, you're playing at like 650, 700 MS. I've seen it theorized here, about 700 MS ping is what we're basically playing on. With that 2-second off-host delay and everything else on top of that. So yeah, saying, well, you should have had your units there is absolutely great. But you aren't able to really... You're in a weird position because you're not able to actually react to anything properly. Something happens and then you've got a 2-second delay, so you need to be so quick to react. I mean, the actual engagement needs to be so forgiving for you to be able to make any use of it that it's just impossible. So that's part of it as well, boys, that the game just doesn't work.
It just doesn't work. But let's go back into a world where where for some fucking reason we're still trying really, really hard to be aggressive, and we're still trying to like be competitive and win at this game. Okay, so what is the lesson that we take away from that fact? Because I would be so bold as to say that both of the things that we said as we were, you know, waxing analytical about this game is true. If he pays more attention to that engagement, if the clicks that he wants to go through, he has everything he can to win that engagement. And so if he does win that engagement, the game looks completely differently because it's 2 good players that are playing a close match. Even though it's going to be over pretty soon and Sauron has won, everything up until that moment is neck and neck. We want to emphasize that. Okay, so you say, okay, but the game doesn't work, and it doesn't. So what's the takeaway from that? and I'll tell you what it is. The mentality when you make mistakes in the game, when you lose games, you have to be able to identify that, yes, maybe I could have put more attention into it, but sometimes when I focus really hard on small situations like that, I'm not able to win. So I'll focus on just trying to like macro and just A move and come from multiple directions and overwhelm you that way. But the biggest thing to take away from it is that it's a beautiful thing what we're doing playing this game as hard as we can and trying to figure out as much as we can. But you kind of have to take all of these matches with a grain of salt, and you can't overcorrect, right? Because like maybe if Sauron lags a little bit there, you know, Wolf Riders have some stuttery movements. Sometimes it's just part of the fucking game that we've grown accustomed to. If those Warg Riders just kind of like stutter step from nothing that Sauron or Sea Knight does, and they kind of just like gum up, and the Wildmen stand up and they hit the thrall in the right spot, entirely possible. I've seen it happen, you know.
Yeah, of course.
This game is completely different.
There is a huge element in this game that people need to understand of like they beat themselves up over losing, and they think that because they beat someone they're suddenly the greatest player of all time. There's a huge element of luck going into these games. There's a huge element of bad netcode, bad game design, and very unfortunate matchups or unfortunate little moments of what the fuck was that? Why am I Godno Knights taking so long to turn around? Why did they get stopped there? Why can't they move properly? Why do I get the red build bug? Why is my hero doing that? All this kind of stuff that play into it. This isn't a perfect game. You're not going to get something like Dota or League of Legends, which is essentially, you know, optimized to a high degree, where you know that if you're losing, it's not because of like, oh, that was a weird thing, that bug that happens all the time that we can't fix for some reason because the game's 12 years old.
Yeah. I will say that if you're trying to improve, it is a very good mindset that whenever you lose to just be like, I should have done this better. Like, you know, it's very beneficial to some degree to just be like, okay, well, to not focus on the things that are outside of your control and really focus on the things that are within your control. Yeah. But also, you have to be careful and you have to be realistic, because you're not going to get anywhere if you're just beating yourself up. If you're feeling really discouraged and like, I can't believe I lost that. You know, you have to kind of understand that, all right, like sometimes the game is going to give you freebies and sometimes it's going to punish you. You know, the game giveth and it taketh away.
And it taketh right away. I'm going to tell you now, if you look at this final score, you can see in between the 6 and 7 minute mark, the scores cross over, and Sea Knight, who was pretty well in the lead there, starts to lose. And I think you're going to see around about that time, it lines up with that unit loss. That's where that first... Go on.
Yeah, that's 100% where the game changed. Like, and we identified it when we were in the game, because Sea Knight had very beautifully, like, it's hard for us when we watch these games to really grasp how well the players are playing, especially when they're doing stuff that's off the beaten path. The way that Sea Knight approaches this matchup and the way he approached this game is unique, is very different from what other players would do in this same situation. Because usually what you see an Isengard player trying to build up Urix and trying to do as much damage as he can before, you know, the Wolf Death Ball comes out, or have enough troops that he can deal with the Wolf Death Ball, or keep it from happening. You know, Joey likes to try and, if I can get this much economy and get to this unit and tech at this person at this specific point, I can get to a break point in this matchup where I will be more comfortable than my opponent and I can win. And for all intensive purposes, in the orchestrating of the board state that he wants, he did it flawlessly. And it cannot be understated how difficult it is and how purposeful everything that happened. And it literally just comes down to
that one engagement where he could have won if the game behaves better or if he gives it more attention. Yeah.
And when you have players that are so neck and neck, you know, we have a tendency when we're watching games where if the game doesn't go 40 minutes, if a fort doesn't fall in, the guy comes back. It's hard to realize how close games are. And I think that we should, as a community, should try to do a better job of like, damn, these two players were playing neck and neck. Even though that game was basically ended at 7 minutes, like, it's not because that player just dunked on that other guy.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. I'm really excited to see this. Hold on. Sea Knight of Ea.
Hold on. So I'm going to be right
So
back
you-
as well.
Yeah.